Welcome to the Veroscope Report. Today we're continuing with the Commonwealth versus Karen Reid, and we're going to be looking at the witness Kerry Roberts, and we're going to continue with her cross-examination on the witness stand by Alan Jackson. And we might as well, since it's Christmas, kick off and go straight into the trial, and then we'll come back to the forensic linguistic analysis after we've heard the cross and the recross, and we will determine to what degree is her testimony reliable and to what degree is Kerry Roberts' testimony deceptive. Okay, without further ado, let's see what she has to say today.
When you spoke to the grand jury about your memory, were you trying to fool them in any way?
No.
Were you trying to...
Objection.
Watch the form of your questions.
Were you trying to mislead them in any way?
Objection.
Sustain. Watch the form of your questions.
When you spoke to the grand jury, were you honest?
Yes.
When you were asked the question, what, if anything, did the defendant ask Ms. McCabe, did you begin your response by saying, at one point?
You can show her her response.
May I approach?
Yes.
Page 83, line 19 of the grand jury. Can I ask you to look at page 83, line 19? Just read it to yourself and the lines that follow. You know? When you were asked that question by Mr. Lally at the grand jury, did you ever say you specifically, personally heard that statement?
I'll allow that.
Did you
No,
ever
I
tell
did
the
not.
grand jury you actually heard that statement being made?
I did not.
And when you spoke to the people in that report that you looked at on page 7, did you ever tell them you specifically heard that statement being made?
No.
Were you consistent in both of those statements?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you say anything different as
No.
far as what you personally observed between those statements?
Objection.
I'll allow that. No.
And when you were asked about what the defendant may have said to Ms. McCabe, or Mrs. McCabe, did you generalize your answer?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you begin your answer with at one point?
Yes.
When you chose the words at one point, what were you trying to convey to the grand jury?
I'll allow that.
I didn't know at what time it was done.
Was that a topic of conversation around the time you were brought to the grand jury?
Around the time what?
That you were brought to the grand jury to testify? There's a Google search.
Was it? I don't know.
Okay. Were you asked here in front of this jury whether or not you personally heard that statement?
Yes.
By me.
Oh.
Did I ask you that question?
No.
Did you personally hear that statement?
No.
After this happened, you discussed what had happened with people, didn't you?
I'm sorry, say it again?
After you found John lying in the snow, did you discuss what had happened, what you saw with other people?
Yes, of
Did
course.
anybody tell you that you couldn't discuss this trauma that you had been through?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Say it again?
Did anybody tell you that you couldn't discuss what you had just seen?
No. Say it again? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
After you found John that morning, did anybody, civilian or law enforcement, ever tell you you weren't allowed to discuss what you had just went through?
No.
Did anybody ever tell you that you couldn't have support of other people?
Objection.
No.
I'll allow that.
No.
Was this a traumatic event?
Yes.
Have you spoken to it to a number of people about it?
Yes.
Tell us why you would want to speak to somebody about what happened that morning.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
I've spoken to many people, obviously, that we all grew up with. But Jen in particular, I do speak to her. I am friends with her. We went through a really traumatic.
Have you noticed the judge, when it's Jackson objecting, her language changes slightly. One of her common phrases is, "I'm going to allow that." Notice that's different than "I'll allow it." I am going to allow that versus I'll allow it. And she also has a tone of voice, a pitch, and a volume. And it suddenly becomes all very calm and all very serene. I'm going to allow that. As if it's now important for the prosecution to be able to show you things. It's conspiratorial in tone. It's all very subtle, but can you see that tiny subtleness? I'm going to allow that. It's her drip, drip, drip technique of influencing the jury. Anyway, let's carry on.
Traumatic experience together.
Did you ever confide in other people other than Jen McCabe about what you endured that morning?
Yes, many people.
Why?
Because it helps me get through, and it's whether John's family, friends, whoever, I've talked to a number of people about it.
You're friends with John's parents?
Parents?
John's parents, the O'Keefes.
Yes.
You still friends with them?
Yes.
Do you ever discuss what happened?
Yes.
You were asked by law enforcement if they could have your telephone?
Yes.
Was there a warrant?
Objection. Sustained. Ask it differently.
Did you feel like you had any obligation, legal obligation, to give your phone to law enforcement?
Objection. I'll allow it.
No, they asked for my phone. I handed it over willingly.
Did you think you had to?
No, but there was no reason not to.
When they went through your phone, do you know whether they saw all of your phone calls that were on that phone?
Objection. Do you know that?
I don't know. They cloned my phone, so I assume they saw everything.
Objection, please. I'm going to strike that answer. So the answer is I don't know.
What type of information did you have on your phone when you voluntarily gave it?
Objection. I'll allow that.
Text messages, phone calls, call logs, pictures.
You said that you stayed friendly and still are friendly with Peggy O'Keefe and John Sr.?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, at times, do you try to help them with things?
Daily.
Do you try to help them with the children?
Objection. Sustained.
Well, you were asked about contacting the district attorney's office about replacing a Ring camera.
Yes.
Whose Ring camera was that?
It was at One Meadows where Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe, John's parents, are now living.
What motivated you to call the district attorney's office about the Ring camera?
Because we knew the Ring might be some sort of evidence that they didn't want to take the camera that was not working down without permission.
Do you have a Ring camera?
I do.
Do you know if there's a difference between the actual physical camera and the iCloud storage that keeps the actual video on it?
I don't know the difference.
Okay. Did you ever ask to replace any hard drives or storage, or were you asking to replace the camera itself?
Just the camera.
And that was in March 7, 2023?
I don't know when.
You were asked questions about what the defendant said that morning when you were trying to help Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
You were asked whether you heard any comments about her, from her, about dropping John off.
Say that one more time.
You were asked whether you heard any comments about her saying she dropped him off.
In the car on the way to the hospital.
Okay.
She said it to Mrs. O'Keefe.
When you were outside trying to help John, were you ever told where the defendant dropped John off?
No.
Were you ever told where he was left?
No.
Was it ever suggested that he went into 34 Fairview?
No,
Was it ever suggested that he went into any house whatsoever that morning?
no,
Were you ever asked to go into the house to look for him?
no,
When you were being interviewed by law enforcement, did you ever refuse to be interviewed?
no.
Did he just say that? Did he just say, when you were being influenced, interviewed? Did he just make that error?
When you were being
Yes, he did. So interesting, isn't it? He says, when you were being influenced, and then self-censors before he could finish the word. He knows. He knows. Naughty.
interviewed by law enforcement, did you ever refuse to be interviewed?
No,
Were the interviews all the same or different?
they were all different. They were all different.
Were you ever asked to give a complete review in detail of everything that you knew?
I was just asked to tell me the story of what happened that morning.
And at some point when you were interviewed, you were asked about the phone calls that the defendant made to you that morning at 5 o'clock.
Yes,
When you received those phone calls, Jennifer McCabe was not on the line, was she?
no,
Was she a party to the calls?
no,
Did she influence your memory in any way about the words that the defendant spoke to you that morning?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
no,
Do you have a clear memory of what the defendant said to you on the morning of January 29, 2022 at around 5 in the morning when she first called you?
yes.
Is it your independent memory?
I'm saying.
Is it
sorry.
your independent memory?
Yes,
How well do you remember it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Tell us what you remember her saying to you.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
when she first called, she said, "John's dead, Kerry, Kerry," and hung up.
And she called you back.
She called back.
When she called back, was there any other party on the line other than you and her?
No,
What do you remember the second time that she called you?
yes. She said, "John, I think he got hit by a plow. He did not come home last night. He would never not have come home. I wasn't supposed to stay in Canton, and Kaylee was here. He would never leave Kaylee by herself."
Now that's interesting. She knows that entire paragraph off by heart, word for word. Such an incredible memory, and yet complete amnesia and I don't recall on anything dangerous. But look how good her memory is, word for word, and she's obviously been practicing in front of the mirror because it was delivered word perfect.
Did anybody ever ask you to lie
No,
or exaggerate?
no.
Would you?
Say that?
Would you?
No,
Sustained.
You were asked whether or not you told people on January 29th about the missing pieces to the defendant's taillight. And you began to say you didn't tell anybody that morning.
I didn't think it had anything to do with John. I didn't want to point fingers at anybody
Why not?
because I had no idea what had happened to him. I wasn't going to point fingers at his girlfriend.
That's interesting, isn't it? So she's telling us that she consciously decided to withhold evidence so that she didn't point fingers at his girlfriend.
Was it, in fact, broken with missing pieces that morning?
Yes,
Do you see how she's put the two and two together? She's put the broken light with pointing fingers, yet claims she knows nothing. Can you see how that is incompatible? I know nothing, but I didn't want to mention anything that would point fingers at somebody. And I didn't want to mention that I know the tail light is a problem. Do you see? This is the problem with liars. They get caught. It's why liars hate lying blatantly by commission, because that's where they much prefer to lie by omission, in other words, leaving things out, where you just say 95% of the truth, but you leave out the 5% that you don't want to talk about. That's how most lying is done, not through an outright barefaced lie, such as claiming to hear and state what Karen said when you didn't hear that. You just made it up. And in fact, you didn't even make it up. You were asked and told by somebody else to say that. Jen McCabe. So she's committed perjury, in my opinion, and has admitted to it, and has admitted that she has lied, but wants us to believe that the only reason she lied is because she didn't understand the question. Let's carry on.
You saw the ring video of you and Miss McCabe and the defendant going into John's house?
Yes.
Had you seen that video before today?
Yes.
Had you been shown it before in
Yes.
other proceedings?
Yes.
When you went into the house with Miss McCabe and the defendant, did you do anything before you went into the house, actually in the house?
When
we
took off our shoes
You took off your shoes?
Jen and I both took off our boots
Why did you take off your boots?
because you had to take off your shoes to go into John's house.
Well, you say you had to. Explain to us a little bit of the background on that.
John was a neat freak. You were not allowed to wear shoes in the house.
Had you ever worn shoes in his house?
No.
Had you ever seen anybody wear shoes in his house?
No.
You and Miss
They do
McCabe?
now. They do now.
Let's see. You and Miss McCabe took your shoes off?
Yes.
Did the defendant take her shoes
Well, that's funny, isn't it? Now that John's dead, they do now. Ha 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 ha.
off?
She did not.
How do you remember that?
Because Jen and I were standing there for about a good 2 minutes trying to get our boots off, and she had already gone in the house.
Do you know why you were called that morning?
No.
Did you volunteer to be part of this
Yes.
after the call?
Yes.
You had said you thought that you looked at the taillight before you went into John's house?
Yes.
Do you remember actually seeing the tail light that morning?
I do.
Was it simply cracked?
No.
Do you know that the portion of the ring video from when you came out of the house with the defendant, Miss McCabe, do you know that portion is missing?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you ever seen any ring video depicting when the defendant was showing you her missing pieces of taillight that morning?
No.
Despite no video, are you certain that you saw it?
Say it again.
Are you certain that you looked at it with the defendant that morning in that driveway?
Objection.
Sustained.
I'd like to play clip 3, please.
Okay.
Objection. Reapproach.
Okay.
Quiet, folks, still on the record.
Thanks to the trial
Right, go ahead,
channel,
Mr.
by the way,
Brennan.
for cutting out all
When
of
you
the...
first got to John and you were trying to save him that morning, do you have a distinct memory of it?
Yes.
Counsel had asked you if it was your story. Was this a story?
Say it again.
Was it a story that you told?
A story?
Yes.
It's what happened.
Do you wish it was just a story?
Objection.
Sustained.
There's no further question.
Okay, so recross.
You just asked, just a few minutes ago. Did you ever say that you actually heard that statement about that Google search? And you said no.
Correct.
The question that was posed to you by Mr. Lally was, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard?
Right.
Correct?
I misunderstood the question.
And you misunderstood that question?
Yes.
What
I
did you
did.
misunderstand about that question?
I didn't know it was that you heard, so I was explaining what happened in the back of the car.
I see. So you just ignored the part, literally, the part of the question where he said, what did you hear her say? That's what
I
your
think the word
testimony
was
is now?
heard, and I didn't hear it. I obviously got the question wrong because I did not hear anybody ask about a Google search.
Well, I know that's what you're saying now. I get that. But when you were asked, what, if anything, did she ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, your immediate answer was, at one point, she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long dash Google hypothermia, end quote. Correct?
Correct.
That was your answer.
Yes.
Correct?
To a question I misunderstood.
And that was a false statement, wasn't it?
Here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether she misunderstood the question or not. She said what she said. She deliberately said what she said. And don't forget, this is a grand jury for a murder. She's not stupid, this woman. Although I think she is easily led. But she knows exactly, because she put this concocted little plan together with McCabe. The two of them together concocted the little story that this woman was going to say at the grand jury. And in my opinion, she deliberately, it's not an accident. She didn't misunderstand the question. This was a pre-planned, concocted lie that she stated deliberately. And that's my opinion. Now, perhaps she decided that she was morally okay with lying because she wanted to ensure her friend John and John's murderer was convicted. So, a little bit of help, a little bit of sprinkling around of the truth and the tail light. So, and watch her attitude. Liars, when they're confronted and caught, amazingly, the audacity, they get angry. And they spit it back at you, and they dig their heels in and carry on the denial. And then they start arguing the semantics because they've lost the argument. They've lost the facts. So they then begin arguing the semantics. And then they begin to gaslight you. Let's see what this lady does.
Technically.
Technically?
So this is very common. The liar is caught, and then what they'll do is they'll say, well, technically it's a lie, but it's exactly what she does.
Yes, technically.
Look at that aggression. Did you see that? Like a snake.
Ms. Roberts?
Okay, so Remember, jurors, I said earlier, comments of counsel are not evidence and you're to disregard them. Ask a question.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Wow.
What do you mean technically?
Technically, I was under oath, and I did not hear Karen asked Jen to Google it.
And yet under oath...
But I knew it happened at that time.
And yet under oath you said you did.
Correct.
And that was a lie, correct?
Objection.
Was that a lie? Did you lie?
I did not intentionally.
So there we are. She admits perjury and then claims that it's not intentional. You don't, she's done it. This is Karen Reed almost went to jail for the rest of her life. Partly because this woman decided to lie to the grand jury. Perjury, a crime. I see the judge try to help her out. Did you notice that? The beautiful Judge Canoni, again, trying to help the witness. So we have admittance of perjury. We have admittance of lying. Let's carry on.
But you did.
And
Not intentionally.
okay, that's the...
See, notice the aggression, but not intentionally. And then the battle body language, the anger at being caught, the anger of being shown to the world that you're a liar, and worse, a liar prepared to send an innocent woman to jail so that you can feel popular amongst your friend group. That's my opinion.
end of
Understood
this.
the question, Mr. Jackson.
All right. Is there any other question or is that it?
Look at the face.
I said I misunderstood the question, Mr. Jackson.
That's what you're saying now, correct?
That's what happened.
All right.
Can I ask one more question?
Okay.
So the judge tries to bring it to an end. Jackson has to beg for one more question. Reluctantly, she exhales her breath and says, okay. The witness has been caught lying. The witness has been caught perjuring in a murder trial. Jackson has the right to put her under pressure and continue this line of questioning. It is entirely wrong for the judge to interfere again and stop and she does this consistently. Every single time one of the witnesses is put under pressure from any of the lawyers, any of the attorneys, she interferes. She breaks it up. She calls a sidebar. She asks the witness if they can answer that. No, move on, Mr. Jackson. Can you answer that? No, move on, Mr. Jackson. Do you know the answer to that? No, move on, Mr. Jackson. It's blatant.
In that quote, you said, at one point she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long. Then you corrected yourself and finished with Google hypothermia.
The self-censorship. She says how long and stops herself. How did she know that Jen McCabe between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning had Googled Hoss Long to die in the cold? How did she know? Because McCabe had obviously told her something in the morning and probably asked her to say, can you say that Karen asked me to Google this? Absolutely unbelievable behavior from this woman. Thank God 2 juries were sensible enough not to listen to her lies or saw through them.
What did you mean by how long? What were you about to say?
I don't recall.
So now she's caught red-handed. What does she revert to? I don't recall.
Told you something about a phrase that started with how long?
I don't recall.
She's caught. How are you going to explain this away? How are you going to explain that you self-censored how long And by coincidence, Jen McCabe at 2:30 was it, was Googling Hoslong to die in the cold. I mean, how callous. Poor John. You've got this. You've got them planning to drag him out into the snow, rather than the possibility that emergency services called immediately. I mean, I don't know the medical facts, but at least, and neither did they. So give the guy a chance. Don't just drag him into the snow to die. What these people have done, as I said in the last video, a drunken fight and scuffle that goes terribly wrong and ends up in an accident, which would be called a murder, unfortunately. But it's an accident, and it's a drunken accident. That isn't evil. That's a drunken accident. What is evil, and I think this woman is part of the evil of this terrible tragedy. What's evil is after the fact, lying and planning and coordinating an attempt to jail Karen Reid for a crime that others committed. That's the evil. That's what this woman, Kerry Roberts, has been involved in my opinion. And she admits it herself. She admits under oath that when she was previously under oath, she lied. And I wonder if she hadn't have lied, what the grand jury would have done. If you know, do put in the comments. Did they would they have charged a lesser charge perhaps, or would there have been no charge? To what degree are Kerry Roberts's lies instrumental in the charges being brought in the first place? Let's see what she does now when Jackson pressurizes her one more time about how did you know about the Hoslong to die in the cold? How did you know?
I don't recall.
Like, for instance, how long to die in cold?
I don't recall.
Okay. All right, Ms. McCabe, I'm sorry, Ms. Roberts, you're upset.
Thank you.
So the judge then calls her Miss McCabe, and everyone has a right laugh, and they can all go home now. Absolutely awful behaviour, terrible. It's like almost unbelievable. Those people that watch this live, with especially the first trial, I mean, I'm getting angry, and I'm watching it on replay. Anyway, let's go to the analysis. What do we see? Well, perjury from the timeline script and the guilty knowledge of McCabe's 2 to 3 a.m. search. What time was it? 2:37? I don't know. Put in the comments if you know the exact time of her Google search, which she then deleted and denies. Roberts admits under oath she lied at grand jury. The sources revealed, because we wrote a timeline. That's what she tells us. She was asked, well, how do you know? Because we wrote a timeline. The how long slip proves the timeline included McCabe's actual 2:30-ish Google search, Hoslong to die in the cold, searched before the body was found. Roberts unconsciously began reciting actual search terms, caught herself mid-phrase, self-censored, self-corrected, and when caught at trial, triple down with we've just heard it, I don't recall, Stonewall. Jackson didn't ask just one more question, even though the judge granted him that. He ended up asking 3. And each time got I don't recall. She basically just shut down. Federal investigators told the truth, never heard it. The grand jury was told a lie from the timeline script. The pattern proves timeline contained McCabe's phone search data, which Roberts testified to falsely, as if witnessed. So the Google hypothermia testimony exposes the full scope of the coordinated narrative. Do you remember? We've got McCabe, her sister, and Roberts all coordinating their narrative together, with McCabe's sister acting as the scribe. Roberts provides detailed grand jury testimony about Karen Read asking Jennifer McCabe to Google hypothermia and how long. Testimony she later admits she never witnessed. When asked how she knew it happened, if no one told her, she reveals, because we wrote a timeline. And then Jackson had to say, but who was involved in writing the timeline? And eventually McCabe's name came out. Federal investigators received the truth. I did not hear Karen ask Jennifer to Google anything. That's the truth. She admits it at last. But the grand jurors received the lie. Specific, detailed testimony, as if personally witnessed. The how long slip reveals knowledge of the actual search terms. McCabe, what did she tell Roberts? What did she tell her? See, I don't think McCabe is stupid enough to tell Roberts everything. And don't forget, Roberts wasn't in the murder house. She's just being used by McCabe. So, it's not contamination, which would have been generous. This is documented perjury from a coordinated script put together by McCabe and Roberts. Her excuse for the perjury and lying to the grand jurors? I didn't understand the question. Which, as we've covered briefly, is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what the question was. It doesn't matter if the question was, what colour is the sky? You then went on to deliver your pre-planned lie. It wouldn't matter what the question was. And it doesn't matter understanding it or not. You delivered a pre-planned, pre-coordinated, specific, detailed lie. It's called perjury. It's a crime. I've never said that, she says. So, have you ever said or testified that during that interaction where you're seated where they are seated in the back of the patrol car and Miss Read asked you to pray, that Miss Read said to Jennifer McCabe, Google hypothermia? I've never said that. You testified at the grand jury, forgive the transcript error here. You testified at the grand jury on April 26, 2022, correct? Yes. Is it your testimony that you have never said that Karen told Jen to Google hypothermia, or that you don't recall saying that? I don't recall saying that. Would it refresh your recollection to look at the portion of your grand jury testimony from that day? It might. Okay. So, Act 2, the detailed false testimony. You painted a very, very detailed picture in front of the grand jury, didn't you? Yeah. And in response to that question, you stated, quote, at one point, she asked her to Google hypothermia. And how long? Google hypothermia. Correct? Yes. Her grand jury testimony was not vague generalization. It was detailed. It was specific testimony. It had the location. It had the participants. It had the timing. It had the context. It had exact words. And we know Kerry is quite good at exact words. We've just heard her deliver word for word perfectly something that she's been practicing for weeks. And for some strange reason can remember these exact words on a phone call at 5 a.m. But here, she also uses exact words. She uses Google hypothermia and how long. How does she know about these words? She paints excuse me. She paints a complete scene with specific details as if personally witnessed. The level of specificity is inconsistent with second-hand information or generalized knowledge. That if you look at her language in the grand jury, there's no vagueness or pretend, or there's no going back now and saying, oh, it was a mistake because I misunderstood one question. No, it doesn't work that way. When someone provides this degree of detail, including quoted speech, they are testifying to direct observation. Your words are categoric. It's nothing to do with misunderstanding a question. Yet she later admits she never heard it. Karen saying these words. The specificity proves this was not accidental misunderstanding, which she claims after the fact having been caught in her perjury. It was deliberate false testimony presented as eyewitness account. Jackson says, except it's not true. Excuse me. I took a nice sip of coffee there. Got a frog in my throat. So, where are we? She admits it. And then because we wrote a timeline, and the reason you did that, the reason you said that false statement was because someone told you to say it, correct? Nobody told me to say it. I knew it happened at that time, which is why I said it. But how did you know it happened, Miss Roberts, if no one told you it happened? And here she makes the classic mistake of a liar, because we wrote a timeline. The timeline you wrote with Jennifer McCabe's help influenced your testimony to testify in front of the grand jury to a statement you never heard, correct? Yes. Look how the liar even attempts here. She's already been caught lying and in perjury, and even now she attempts a little deception once more. Nobody told me to say it, she says. I knew it happened at that time, which is why I said it. Jackson's not having any of this rubbish. How did you know it happened, Miss Roberts, if no one told you it happened? And then look, the fracture, because we. This is the person who told you to say it. Nobody told me to say it. We. Because we wrote a timeline. The timeline you wrote with Jennifer McCabe. Yes. Surrender. Which is her pattern, isn't it? So there we are. Will she be charged with perjury? No. The whole town aren't interested with the current political leadership, are they, in things like that? But things do change. That's the one thing we can be sure of. The murder of a Boston cop, John O'Keefe, is not going away. And those involved, whether they were directly involved in the violence or whether they are part of the conspiracy which Brian Albert lays out before the public in his conspiracy theory interview that he had after the second trial of Karen Reid. Whether or not you can say that Kerry Roberts is a part of that conspiracy, I don't know. Would you say that Brian Albert considers her a part of the conspiracy? Or would you say that he thinks that she's just a useful idiot, a patsy, someone that was involved in intelligence gathering with the contacts and rapport that she had? I don't know. What do you think? Say in the comments. But we will get to the bottom of it. My own personal opinion is that Kerry Roberts not only committed perjury, but I don't believe that the reason for her perjury is a misunderstanding. I believe the language is deliberate. The timeline was the script. February 1, 2022, the timeline is created with Jennifer McCabe, Sister Denise scribing. Google hypothermia statement is included with specific details. So McCabe has to get the Google hypothermia request from Karen into the memories because she knows at some point she's going to have to explain away why she Googled "Hoss Long to die in the cold" at 2:30 in the morning. She's deleted that text, and they've no doubt decided, look, we are where we are. You've done the bloody text. You're going to have to text. You're going to Google search, not text. We are where we are. You've done the Google search. Delete it. Search again in the morning. I mean, what a nightmare because the lies are just getting more and more twisted, aren't they? They would have said to themselves, we'll get our scientific bloke. They'll have their scientific bloke. We'll just say Google got it wrong on the day of the murder just for us. Google's clock is wrong. And sure enough, they got their quack, didn't they? And the defence got their science guys. Do put in the comments more about that if you know. Then we have the federal truth. This is with the FBI. Did you hear Karen Reid ask Jennifer McCabe to conduct any Google searches? I did not hear Karen Reid ask Jennifer McCabe to conduct any Google search. So she's been told it's a criminal offence to lie. What does she do? She tells the truth. Grand jury. Question: what, if anything, did she, Miss Reid, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard? Answer: at one point she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long Google hypothermia. Do you see how she made a mistake here? So we have two contradictory statements under oath. Roberts provides two contradictory accounts to law enforcement about the same event. To the federal investigators, she tells the truth, and to the grand jury, she lies. She provides false, detailed testimony from the timeline script. Essentially, it's audience-dependent truth selection. It's nothing to do with not understanding. Because she's able to tell the truth other times, isn't she? She doesn't need to understand the question to tell the truth. And she doesn't need to understand the question to deliver her pre-planned lie. So her excuse becomes its own tell, because the excuse doesn't hold any water. It can literally be, what's the capital of France? I heard her ask to Google hypothermia. You don't need to understand the question to say your lie. Do you see? Lally's failed damage control. When you chose the words "at one point," what were you trying to convey to the grand jury? I didn't know at what time it was done. Did you personally hear that statement? No. So there's no real damage control, is there? And this is ridiculous. Okay. So Jackson recrosses. The question that was posed to you by excuse the transcript error, by Mr. Lally was, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard? Correct? I misunderstood the question. And it was said with that little aggressive attitude that liars get when caught. What did you misunderstand about that question? I didn't know it was that you heard. I didn't know it was that you heard. So you just ignored the part, literally the part of the question where he said, what did you hear her say? I just heard, and I didn't hear it. Oh, that's classic. Here we have a deceptive pattern. I just heard, and I didn't hear it. Your immediate, do you see? There's all sorts of minimization, sensitivity, I didn't, heard, hear. The structure has deception. It doesn't make any sense to begin with. Remember, confusion, and it doesn't make any sense, is its own deceptive marker. Lies love to live in confusion. So your immediate answer was, at one point she asked you to Google hypothermia and how long dash Google hypothermia, end quote. Correct? Correct. And that was a false statement, wasn't it? Technically. Okay. Remember, the gaslighter, the liar, when they're caught, they go through different phases. So here we have the arguing the semantics. You've proven her to be a perjurer and a liar. Then we're going to go into the semantics and the excuses, followed by the anger. And if it wasn't on a witness stand, immense gaslighting. To try and, now that you've caught them lying, to try and turn it around that you're the one at fault. We see Kerry become angry at getting caught. Quite aggressive, to say the least, to Jackson. I did, not intentionally. The word technically is minimization. It's attempting to reduce the significance of sworn false testimony. There is no technically about perjury. Either the statement is true or false. She testified under oath to detailed observations that she never made. That is not technically false. It's definitely false, and it's definitely a lie, and it's perjury. The reason perjury is a criminal offence is to stop this happening in a grand jury for a murder. You can't just pretend you heard something because somebody else wants you to say that and then claim you didn't understand the question and that's why you lied. It's ridiculous. Did you lie? I did, not intentionally. Remember, the judge tried to help her out again. The judge interfered, didn't she? Jackson had her on the ropes. The judge decided to jump in between them, like she always does. Any witness under extreme pressure and their lies being exposed, in she jumps. Metaphorically, she takes out their gum shield, gives them some water, sits them on the stool for 2 minutes, and when they're ready, she lets them up again. So, the slit that reveals everything. Hoss long to die in cold. McCabe Googles, Hoss long to die in the cold. Poor John. I mean, can you imagine what McCabe and Higgins and Albert are planning to do with John? Can you imagine the moment they drag him out just to lie in the snow by himself? Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not alive, but either way, dragging him out to be alone in the cold, I think that's very callous. 5 a.m., Karen calls Roberts and says he's dead. And at 6 a.m., the body is found in the snow. Forgive this error, I think. This self-censorship is concerning, isn't it? Google hypothermia and how long. Somehow McCabe has to get Roberts to introduce this so it can then fit in with her claim that she Googled it in the morning. But unfortunately for McCabe, Roberts knows she didn't hear this. So at some point, even though Roberts has extreme cognitive dissonance, at some point she's going to have to ask herself, why did McCabe need me to do this? Why did McCabe influence me to commit perjury? Funny that Lally made that cognitive error at the unconscious level, wasn't it? And he started off saying influence rather than interview. And then we have the triple I don't recall at the end, the Stonewall. Jackson says, you said at one point you asked her to Google hypothermia and how long. Then you corrected yourself and finished with Google hypothermia. What did you mean by how long? Now, she doesn't want to enter any of this because if she starts entering discussions with Jackson about how did you know that Jen McCabe Googled Hoss Long to die in the cold, how did you know that? She would then have to admit, well, Jen McCabe told me and she asked me to set, and on it goes, and a whole can of worms is opened up. So rather than that, she decides to lie. I can't recall. I don't recall. And look, also it's the triple pattern. I don't recall. Almost said with glee, almost as if I'm going to say this because there's nothing you can do about it. Had someone told you something about the phrase that started with how long? Jen McCabe, in other words. I don't recall. Like, for instance, how long to die in the cold? I don't recall. Before the slip, she had such detailed memory. Do you remember? She could say word for word what Karen had said to her at 5 a.m. Word for word. Do you remember? She'd been practicing that for so long to get perfect. Well, she could do that, but nothing that's dangerous to her. So we see the binary memory pattern continue. This protective stonewalling at the end. It's a shame that the judge shut Jackson down. He should have been allowed to really get the truth here. If he'd been given another 10 minutes and would have been allowed to stay on the lie and the perjury, I think we would have seen a lot more breakdown. And hence truth being revealed. So we have proof of coordination, how Roberts knew McCabe's actual search terms, the impossible knowledge. If Kerry Roberts only witnessed what she claims, hearing Karen ask Jen to Google hypothermia, she would have zero knowledge of what Jennifer McCabe actually typed into her phone, the specific phrasing of McCabe's search query, that the search included how long, that the complete phrase was Hoss Long to die in the cold. But Roberts knows the actual search terms, but self-censored, almost as if she knew she shouldn't, so stopped herself, which is another deceptive marker, isn't it? And at the grand jury, she begins saying, Google hypothermia and how long before catching herself, because this is the beginning of McCabe's actual search, Hoss Long. And she's unconsciously starting to recite what McCabe actually Googled, not what Karen allegedly asked for. Do you see the difference? The only way Roberts can know this is from the timeline creation session. Jackson caught it. It's just a shame the judge wouldn't allow him to expand upon the perjury. Okay. So I think we've covered pretty much the analysis. I'll quickly go through this just in case anyone wants to read it. What do you think? Final assessment. Documented perjury from a coordinated timeline script containing McCabe's actual phone search string. Roberts admits providing false grand jury testimony about an event she never witnessed. It's because we wrote a timeline is where the source has come from, and the how long slip proves the timeline included McCabe's actual 2 to 3 a.m. Google search, Hoslong to die in the snow. More concerning is the self-censorship. Why did she know to self-censor? Or was it the case that she couldn't quite remember what Jen had told her to say, so she only said the very first part of the sentence? What do you think? It's one of those two. Misunderstanding as a post hoc rationalization. What, if anything, did she ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard? At one point, she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long. No mention of misunderstanding. This is a very clear answer to the question. No request for clarification. No hedge like I was told, or I didn't hear personally, but just confident, detailed, specific, false testimony. Yet later in the federal interview by the FBI, absolute clarity and perfect memory, and doesn't lie to them. And after being caught, now cornered, trapped, caught in her own lie, only then, I misunderstood the question. No, you didn't misunderstand the question. You deliberately perjured yourself to attempt to send Karen Reid to prison for the rest of her life. That's what's happened. It's not, I misunderstood the question. This is your excuse after being caught. It's classic post hoc rationalization. So, wishing you the most wonderful rest of the day. And I look forward to chat with you in the comments. And wishing you the most wonderful year ahead. Okay. Merry Christmas.